This is for section 9 on solving equations. This is the distributive property. Now, the distributive property you should recognise as a number in front of parentheses and then probably two terms inside of parentheses, but there could be more. So when we have that, what we have to do is we have to distribute or multiply out here. So we do 6 times x and then 6 times 3. Now, once we've done that, this actually looks just like the earlier sections with two-step equations. Let's bring all our numbers to the right-hand side. So instead of subtracting 18, I'm going to add 18 to both sides. And as I did that, that would be the property of equality. Go ahead and simplify. 42 plus 18 is 60. And these two are going to cancel out because these are inverses of each other. Working this out is an example of a substitution. And then 6x equals 60. This is the one that's easy now. Divide both sides by 6. As I did the same to both sides, that will be a property of equality, division for this one because we divided. And then the 6's will cancel because they're inverses, times by 6, divide by 6, so I get left with just x. And 60 divided by 6 is 10. So the answer is x equals 10, hopefully. Now if we go ahead and check that just to make sure that we didn't do anything silly here, then 10 plus 3 is 13, and 6 times 3 is 78. Oh, I got 78 equals 42. Now actually for this question, I deliberately made one mistake just to show you why you need to check your answer. The mistake that I actually made in this question was I copied down one of the lines incorrectly. When I had 6 times 3 here it was 18, but it was supposed to be positive 18. So if I go back and fix this now, instead of adding 18 to both sides, I want to subtract 18 from both sides. These will cancel, leaving me 6x. 42 take away 18 is 24. And then 24 divided by 6 is 4. Now if I go ahead and check that, 4 plus 3 is 7. 6 times 7 is 42. And 42 does indeed equal 42. So that'll show you the power of why you actually want to check your answers as well when you're doing questions. Just to make sure you don't do something silly, which is very easy to do when you're copying questions down like that. Another distributive question, because I can see the number in front of the parentheses and then the parentheses. So I'm going to multiply these out first. Although I could also say with the x's on the right hand side, I might want to switch these over possibly, because I always prefer the x on the left. I guess this time I chose to do it that way around. So I switched the question around, switched the left and the right over, and now I can do the distributive. So 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times negative 2x is negative 8x, and that's my distributive property. I might also want to move the negative 8 to the front and say negative 8x plus 12, because that looks a little bit nicer. So that would be my commutative property, because I changed the order. You don't have to do that, but sometimes people think that looks a little bit nicer. And then now I want to bring all my numbers to one side. So adding 12, do the inverse, which is to subtract 12. As it's on both sides, that's that property of equality again. These two terms will cancel because they're inverses, so I'm just going to get left with negative 8x. 22 take away 12 is 10, as that's something I worked out. That's my substitution property. And then now, divide both sides by negative 8. As I did the same to both sides, that's the property of equality again. These two will cancel because they're inverses, times by negative 8, divide by negative 8, so I get left with 8. And then 10 over negative 8, a positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative, because there's one negative sign. And these also both divide by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And you can see that we brought the negative sign to the top. If you put 5 over negative 4, technically that should be wrong, because that should work out as negative 5 over 4. So bring the negative to the top when that happens. As we worked out an answer, that's substitution. And once again, as these were times and negative and divide, these are examples of inverses. So that should cover section 9, which is a distributive property. There are only 2 examples in this case, and the reason there's only 2 cases for this one is that after you've done this distributive step, everything's exactly the same as you saw in the previous 8 sections. So we're just building up one section at a time when we're doing these questions.